what really brought down the mighty Roman Empire. For centuries, we've been told stories of barbarian invasions, political corruption, and economic collapse. And sure, those were all big problems. But what if I told you there was a hidden killer, a silent force that gnawed away at the very foundations of Roman society, long before the first barbarian crossed the Rhine? Today, we're uncovering the secret reason Rome fell, and it's not what you think. It's a story of science, history, and a toxic mistake that cost an empire its future. Let's set the scene. Imagine Rome at its peak. The Colosseum echoes with the roar of the crowd. Legions march across 3 continents. Aqueducts, marvels of engineering, bring fresh water to bustling cities. The Romans were masters of technology, law, and organization. They built things to last. So how did it all crumble? The common answers are well known. You've got the constant military campaigns that drain the treasury, the political instability with emperors being assassinated left and right, and the sheer size of the empire making it impossible to govern effectively. Then there were the economic woes, hyperinflation, over-reliance on slave labor, and a tax system that crushed the middle class. And of course, the dramatic final act, hordes of Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns sacking cities and eventually, Rome itself. These are all valid points, absolutely. They are pieces of the puzzle, but they don't paint the whole picture. They describe the symptoms, not the root cause. To find that, we need to look closer at something the Romans used every single day, something they considered a symbol of their sophistication: lead. Yes, lead. The soft, malleable, and incredibly useful metal. The Romans loved it. They called it plumbum, which is where we get the words plumbing and plumber. And that's the first clue. Their famous aqueducts, while built of stone, often connected to a vast network of lead pipes that delivered water directly into the homes of the wealthy. The Roman elite, the 1% who ran the empire, drank water that flowed through lead. But it didn't stop there. They cooked in lead-lined pots and pans. They stored wine in lead-glazed amphorae. They even used a substance called sapa as a sweetener. Sapa was made by boiling grape juice in lead pots, which created a sweet syrup due to the formation of lead acetate, also known as sugar of lead. It was sweet, but incredibly toxic. Roman aristocrats would add it to their wine and food to improve the flavor, completely unaware they were slowly poisoning themselves with every delicious bite. Now, you might be thinking, could lead poisoning really bring down an entire empire? Well, let's look at the science. Chronic lead poisoning, also known as satanism, is devastating to the human body. It doesn't kill you overnight. It's a slow, insidious process. The symptoms include severe abdominal pain, memory loss, fatigue, irritability, and a decline in cognitive function. It also causes infertility and a high rate of miscarriages and stillbirths. Sound familiar? Let's connect these symptoms to the Roman elite. Historical records are filled with accounts of Roman aristocrats suffering from gout, which has symptoms very similar to lead poisoning. We read about their strange behavior, their fits of madness, and their inability to produce healthy heirs. Many noble families simply died out. For generations, the ruling class of Rome, the emperors, the senators, the generals, were systematically poisoning their own minds and bodies. Think about the consequences. An empire needs strong, intelligent, and stable leadership to survive. But what happens when your leaders are suffering from brain damage? Decision-making becomes erratic. Long-term planning goes out the window. Generals make catastrophic blunders on the battlefield. Emperors descend into paranoia and madness. Caligula and Nero are famous examples of erratic Roman emperors. While many factors contributed to their behavior, it's hard not to wonder if lead poisoning played a role in their infamous cruelty and instability. The very people who needed to solve the empire's problems, the economic crises, the military threats, were the ones most affected by this hidden poison. Their ability to think clearly and lead effectively was being compromised generation after generation. The birth rate among the aristocracy plummeted, while the general population, who couldn't afford lead pipes and fancy cookware, continued to grow. The ruling class was literally dying off. They were unable to replace themselves, creating a massive leadership vacuum at the top of the social pyramid. So, while the barbarian armies were gathering at the gates, the real enemy was already inside. It was in the water, in the wine, and on the dinner plates of the Roman elite. The lead didn't sack Rome in a day. Instead, It was a slow-motion catastrophe, weakening the empire from the top down for centuries. It eroded the health, sanity, and reproductive capacity of its leaders, leaving a hollowed-out shell that was unable to withstand the external pressures it faced. The political assassinations, the bad economic policies, the military defeats, they weren't just random events. They were the symptoms of a ruling class that had lost its edge, poisoned by its own luxury. It's a chilling thought. The very technology and lifestyle that the Romans saw as proof of their superiority was actually their undoing. It was a fatal design flaw woven into the very fabric of their civilization. It shows how unseen threats, things we might not even recognize as dangerous, can have devastating consequences over time. We face our own modern-day lead pipes, environmental toxins, digital distractions, societal pressures that could be slowly undermining our own foundations. The Romans didn't have the scientific knowledge to understand the danger they were in. We do. The lesson from Rome is that we must be vigilant. We need to question our assumptions and look for the hidden threats in our own world before they become insurmountable. The fall of Rome wasn't just about swords and sandals. It was a complex process with a silent, toxic secret at its heart. And understanding that secret helps us understand not just the past, but also the potential pitfalls of our own future. So the next time you hear about the fall of Rome, remember the lead pipes. Remember that the greatest threats aren't always the ones you can see marching towards you. Sometimes, the real enemy is the one you invite into your own home, the one you drink with every single day. What do you think? Could this hidden poison truly be the missing piece of the puzzle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey into history fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the secrets of the past. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.